Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's largest platform for entrepreneurs. I'm Sunanda Jayaseelan. Any questions related to any aspect of your business, we've got it covered here on the show. Tonight, we're focusing on the travel and tourism space. What has been the impact? How are entrepreneurs in the space coping? What can an entrepreneur look forward to in the rest of fiscal 22? All of those questions being posed to this expert panel. Joining me today, let me quickly introduce them. First up, we have the CEO and ED of STIC, Isha Goyal, the co-chairman of FICCI Travel and Technology Committee, Ashish Kumar, and MD, Travel Corporation of India, Dipak Deva. Isha, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time here on the show. I want to start today's conversation by talking about everything that's been happening, around us. We're, of course, in the middle of the second pandemic, the second wave of the pandemic. FY22, if you could describe it in one word, one line, one sentence, how would you really want to describe everything that's been happening around us?
Well, you said sum it up in one word. I would say nervous. Is definitely on everyone's mind, irrespective of size and scale in our industry. Um, I think there's been, 2020, of course, was a challenging year for all businesses in travel, tourism, and hospitality. And it was the priority or the focus was all about survival at that point. There was some slivers of recovery over the last quarter or so, and that gave hope both domestically and regionally to our industry. And of course, with February and March being relatively milder in terms of the COVID wave. So everyone entered this financial year thinking, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. But of course, like you said, as we sit now in the second wave of this pandemic in India, there is a sense of nervousness on what the next few quarters hold. I think for a lot of companies and businesses, travel and tourism in India is largely comprised of small and medium enterprises, is largely
Yeah.
comprised of entrepreneurs, family businesses, small shops that form the large volume of operators who have been hanging on to every thread of hope. So I think there is nerves. There's in some brackets, I would say desperation. There is hope. There is also hope that the industry, in whatever shape and form, has supported each other, has survived and reached this point, and has really rallied together and
Sure.
collaborated in ways that one hadn't thought possible. So the next few quarters, we have a lot holding on to continue to adapt, continue to look at whatever few opportunities we see emerging out of this pandemic, whether it is a hope of revenge travel or pent-up demand in the quarters to follow, or it is adapting to whatever regional domestic opportunities one sees in the near future. Of course,
Okay. Sure.
cautiously and in the safest way possible.
I would say the travel sector has been the most impacted by the
Okay.
pandemic in the entire ecosystem. The situation is still grim, and in one word, I would say devastating. That is the word I would use. Uh, think of this: 2019 was, Sunanda, our best year ever, right? Financial year 2019 was the best year for hospitality and tourism. There could not have been a better year than that. Fantastic top line, great margins. The industry was doing well. We were employing people. Growth rate, financial year 2021, growth rate expected anywhere between 10 to 15%, depending on what business. And on the flip side, 13 months, and we have not raised a single invoice or had a single client from overseas because the borders are shut, source markets are dead, the pandemic is spreading. So, and just think of this also. 2003 we called SARS a crisis. The drop in international tourism was 0.4%. 2009 financial crisis, the drop was 4%. And today in our region, it is 82 to 84%, right? In the Asia Pacific region, worldwide probably above 70 in the last year. So yeah, it's a really a difficult situation, and it's different for different folks, right? Hotels have a mixed bag. City hotels, obviously, if they're corporate, they're going to suffer and they'll continue to suffer because business travel is not coming back in a hurry. Leisure destinations like Goa, Kerala, Jaipur, Udaipur, national parks, they're doing extremely well. And that domestic business is growing. Now you can consider Kumbh Mela domestic business, then you met all your numbers for the year. But let's leave that aside for a second. And then travel companies are suffering because the borders are closed. So, there is a real mix of stuff that's happening. Now, Maldives and Dubai gained a lot as international business. Now, look at it another way. Borders will open, the domestic business is going to get impacted. People will start traveling overseas while people will start coming into India. So, yeah, it's tough. It's been tough on employment. It's been tough on cash. It's been a tough year for travel companies, to say the least.
Sure.
Sunanda, I am actually quite past making any forecasts. And for the simple reason, people like Isha and Deepak, who've been used to working on annuals and quarterly business plans, etc., I think the time is to really start working on a monthly business plan. And when you start looking at a monthly business plan, then whether you're a big, small, or medium, agility will have to come into place. You got to be agile, you got to be fast to be able to adapt almost on a daily basis, be it on product, be it on customer, be it consumer requirement, and be it on your cash flow. And we know that cash is king, right? So it's time to look at monthly forecasts rather than annual and quarterly. They're all gone out of the window as we go through this, what is being called popularly as a black swan event. This is not black swan, what I would say. So I don't want to dwell too much into forecasting because the virologists, the best of virologists, have not been able to predict the behavior of this virus. Forget about the travel industry to be able to forecast.
For small businesses and entrepreneurs that are struggling economically during the pandemic, what would you want to tell them?
Well, I think the key is adapt. Number one, survive. Do whatever it takes to survive. If you haven't reduced your costs significantly, if they are not 40, 30, 25% of what they were, then work harder at it. So bring down costs to an absolute bare minimum. Do not indulge in the belief that I need to incur this cost because in another 2-3 months things will normalize. Nobody knows when things will normalize, to Ashish's point. So survive. The fight to survival is not over. So don't get complacent and adapt. I think if you see our industry at large, again, irrespective of your size, that's what everybody is doing. Inbound operators are starting to sell domestic, which they've never done before. Outbound long haul operators are looking at regional travel opportunities. Tour operators that have never sold the Middle East, have never sold Dubai packages, are considering Dubai packages. So everyone is adapting to whatever little opportunities are available in the near term.
Sure.
And that's the key to survival. Adapt, chase whatever revenue you see, and bring your costs down. Continue to do it. Keep fighting.
Yeah, so I think it's also key for us to mention out here that there is most countries overseas have supported the travel, tourism, and hospitality sector. For example, UK or all the European Union countries, they have a furlough scheme. They have a working capital scheme. Here we have nothing, and in fact, here the government still owes us export incentives from 2019-20. Now, the government needs to now look at this. It's been 13 months. They need to ensure that they make sure that funds are available to the travel companies. And to answer your question, what should each of the people do? Give them this cash in hand and let them pay their teams and let them mobilize people again, so that whenever the business comes, I agree, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, but you need to have your organizations ready for when the business starts again. But for that, the government cannot not have any relief to the industry. So yeah, we have a little bit of we have some solutions, but we need the government support in this desperately.
Just wanted to add to Deepak's point on government relief or lack thereof. In terms of even something as simple as tax breaks for employees, statutory payments that we have to do for all our employees. It's one thing for governments around the world that have offered to pay salaries or parts of salaries for tourism and hospitality employees. But in addition to the salaries, which we have to take care of ourselves, we also have to fulfill all the statutory dues, pay all the taxes. There have been no reliefs on that front. And that's really something that has disturbed the industry because, it is something that, yes, 19 and 20 were fantastic years. And we're all, frankly, surviving thanks to that. But the small business, small entrepreneur, the tiny tour operator, or even
Yeah.
someone who's running or paying guides and things like that, how do those guys survive if they have to
Sure.
fulfill the statutory obligations as well?
I have to take a quick break on that note. We're back in just a moment. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. With us here in Leaders of Tomorrow. Tonight, we're putting the spotlight on the travel and tourism space. I want to talk about government support for the sector. At a time when several states have gone into lockdown, we're talking about a second, national lockdown after the one that we saw last year. What do you think should be the role of the government when it comes to supporting small businesses, SMEs, and MSMEs?
Well, very quickly, I can't deny or disagree with what has been said that there must be some
Yeah.
fiscal benefits expected. But I think the industry spent far too much time going to the government for a fiscal benefit. To me, the government needs to be pushed to be almost like a knowledge venture capitalist where they work hand in hand with the industry. Deepak mentioned about vaccination. I mean, there are a whole lot of strategies, there are a whole lot of policies which need a change today. If you were to make a future out of this organization, you have to make the industry future-proof, and this is a good time to make it future-proof. There are archaic laws which is working in the Motor Vehicle Act. There are archaic laws which are working on e-commerce distribution. We can't fail to understand that we are actually part of a larger e-commerce distribution. So if you look at it, there's a lot that needs to be changed. Let's leave the fiscal benefit. I do understand survivability is a fact, but the government should look at beyond survival.
One of the things that was mentioned was about these travel bubbles of Dubai, Maldives, etc. They've managed to build these travel bubbles and really keep passengers and really keeping customers and people really coming in, holiday makers really coming in. What lessons can we take away from these countries?
Well, in my opinion, it's not so much the fault or a gap lying with the players themselves. I think it's the tourism industry, department, government regulation, healthcare, everything that came together in these two destinations that supported the industry and allowed them to make this bubble successful.
Sure.
It's I think service providers across the world, in India or in the region, are all doing everything they possibly can to make the travel experience for their customers safe
Sure.
and comfortable. But I think it's not just the travel service providers, but also everyone from airports, logistics, healthcare, um, and regulators that enable that safety corridor and help.
Sure.
So whether it was the way the testing and the quarantine and the delivery of test results and so on was being done in Dubai, or the manner in which, well, Maldives also had a logistical advantage of the islands being just the isolated nature of the destination. But I think it's kudos to Dubai tourism and Maldives tourism, but also the various other departments and ministries that made it happen. And India needs that as well. We need to work and collaborate a lot more beyond just travel service providers. The onus extends beyond us.
Yeah. Just to add to what Isha said, I think she summed it up very well. You see, there are two things out here that you have to consider, Sunanda. First, there was no other way to go. So everybody wanted to find an overseas trip, and two good destinations, fantastic hotels, beach, etc. In Dubai, it was winter, perfect months to travel to this area, and the same for Maldives, which is an aspirational destination. People said, okay, we'll take our travel budget and pour it into these two places and go out and have a good holiday. Both the destinations, there is something to learn from these tourism boards. They are agile, they're swift, and they knew how to get the Indian market. So fantastic job at with this opportunity. However, I think the domestic, one thing that I must compliment the Ministry of Tourism is that they have uh, promoted the destination very well through webinars, through making an effort, through promoting the destination. They have done a good job, and many states have benefited. I think people like Rajasthan, states like Rajasthan, Goa, Kerala have benefited. Christmas and New Year has been probably the best season for domestic hotels in this country, and they've probably had the highest ARR. And this is courtesy Indians traveling within India. So I think it's worked out very well for the domestic destination. But the issue is the wider travel business and hotels don't only exist in leisure destinations. The industry by and large has suffered. This is one part that has definitely gained. And thank God they did, because can you imagine the devastation if even leisure destinations where domestic people went could not fill their rooms? It would have been a catastrophe.
With the pandemic, with everything that's changing around us, what are the changed skill sets that you think an entrepreneur today should really be building?
Well, I think to Ashish's point earlier, if you have not uh, figured out or cracked technology as an enabler for your business, then you're going to miss the boat. So I think that's key. It's not just about being able to do Zoom calls and Teams calls. I think technology is going to be at the center of how our industry recovers and survives and moves forward. And if you're a small entrepreneur in a small business, you have to be able to figure out how to use that to your advantage and to the advantage of your business and business model.
Sure.
So that's one in terms of skills. The other, I think, is the ability to make your resources multifaceted. So I think multitasking is something that in any case small businesses and entrepreneurs tend to do, but also enabling your teams to become multifaceted. So while small businesses may not have the luxury of doing, let's say, a technology build or doing wide scale trainings, etc., for their teams, there's still opportunities to train your individual teams and players to be able to play multiple roles as you move forward and need to continue to have smaller teams than one was earlier working with. So I think
Sure.
figuring out how to better manage your people and how to use technology to grow and stretch your resources.
When could we perhaps expect inbound travel to come back?
So I would see a trickle coming in from October of this year, a real trickle. I would then see business returning back to some form of normalcy in 2022 January. You see, ours is seasonal businesses to
Yeah.
September to December, and 2023 is when it's going to come full blast. That's our own pipeline is got this very clear that the business is going to come in, and our clients have our bookings are in the books. We are seeing the revenues that will come in, provided, of course, borders are open, numbers are down, people are vaccinated. But Sunanda, I have, I can answer this question based on my interaction with my customers and what work we do. But I'll tell you, the key lies with the government. The
Yeah.
government has to use this as once in a lifetime opportunity to move towards a more sustainable and resilient model of tourism development in the country. India must be a front
Sure.
runner for this. It's very important going forward. We must make sure that we give a clear message. India is vaccinated, people are ready to receive you, it's going to be safe. We must spend the money in the key source markets. You see, if we don't go out and spend the marketing budget in the right way, especially through social media, we are never going to get the customers. Everybody is standing on that 100 meters race today, and everybody is going to take off together. Are we going to get
Sure.
it right? That's the government's job. And the
Sure.
government should just focus on these things, make sure that there is no increase in taxes. I don't want any reduction. I just hope they don't increase taxes and they don't increase the visa fees. Don't make any fancy plans to do anything that is going to disturb what is already working, and we'll bring the business back. But do what the government has to do, what they have to do, the private sector has to do what they have to do. Like Isha said, I would say technology, go out, create experiences, create more experiences as a destination, make India even more desirable to your customers, and take care of your people. You know, businesses have run well over these years, travel and tourism has done well. This is your time as entrepreneurs and owners to take care of your people.
Thank you so much for your time, Isha, gentlemen. That's all we could manage to pack into today's panel. But if you are a small entrepreneur who's struggling to make ends meet, if you have questions, if you're looking for resources, do reach out to us and we will connect you with the appropriate authorities. Do stay safe, do stay indoors. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good night.